All right, everybody, welcome to this next lesson. And I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. So today we're going to focus on classroom routines and objects. And we'll start off with the very first one, which is school. So school is formed with two flat hands. School. School. I noticed as I was going through this list that a lot of things are pretty iconic, and maybe that's because I don't know why, it was just interesting to notice. So school, I think about the way I was told about this was there are a lot of people talking about slamming books or clapping hands to get attention. So school. Learn is a two-handed sign, and you have your palm of your non-dominant hand, and then your dominant hand takes the information. So you think about this as the page, takes the information from the page, grabs it up into a more or a flattened O hand shape, and brings it to your head. So learn. So you're taking something up and putting it into your head. Learn. Teach is the two, like a more hand shape, two flattened O's, and you are teaching. A teacher teaches. They take things out of their head and put it out there to other people. So teach. A teacher is a teach person or teach agent. This after a sign means an agent and denotes that it belongs to a person. So a teach agent. A clean agent would be a cleaner. A driver would be a drive agent. So teacher teaches. Forget is a flat hand. Your dominant hand swipes across your head, like it wiped out of your forehead. I forget. Then I remember is, oh yeah, you take your thumb and your other thumb. So you have your non-dominant hand as a fist with a thumb on top, and your dominant hand takes something from your head and brings it down into focus here. Oh, I remember. I remember. Or you could ask somebody a question by shifting your eyebrows. So remember, your eyebrows go up in a question. Remember? Or they come down flat for I remember, and you nod your head to signal an affirmation. Ready is you take two R's, one on each hand, and you go from left to right. Ready. So you can say, I'm ready. You can ask a question by raising your eyebrows. Ready? Ready. So the difference between asking the question and answering the question is just your facial expression. Specifically, your eyebrows in this instance. The same as teaching, learning, remembering, forgetting. Question about whether it's from right to left or left to right. No, it is not a different question. It is the same one. But generally, if there is a sign that moves from one side of the signing space to the other, it goes from left to right, just as if you read. Plan. plan is you take your two palms facing each other and you start, this is a left to right sign as well. So you plan and you go back a little bit and then forward. Plan. So you could tell somebody that you have a plan with an affirmation, have a plan. Or you could ask somebody, have you made a plan? What's your plan? Again, eyebrows. You start to see how much they matter. Schedule. Schedule and calendar look the same. So you take your palm and your other palm, and if you can in your mind visualize a calendar that has, you know, boxes in it. So you take your, draw your down stripes and then you draw your across stripes. Schedule. Down facing your palm, and then you flip your hand over and go backwards across in a way that your fingers face towards you when you go back. So I'll do it a little closer. Your hand comes down and then goes across. It's kind of like painting. There's a question, sign for I have. So as we've mentioned before, there's not a sign for every word, but the sign for have is your two palms bent and against your chest, poking your chest. I have, I possess something. And the way you would ask, I presume you're saying, you're adding on to the question or statement part. So I have a schedule would be schedule, I have one. Or a plan. Plan, schedule, I have one. And then the way you would ask, you would lean towards that person and say, schedule or plan, do you have? And then you would probably ask a question, which is, you might ask this, use this form as well. So the index finger facing outward and you just do a little wiggly like a person, that's kind of like a question mark. Question? And then there's another question, I knew this would come up. Do you do the action first, like plan, then have? Yes. So the sentence topic, the sentence order for ASL is a topic followed by a comment. So you present your subject first and then you talk about it. So first you're going to identify what you're talking about so that there's a context within which something happens or something is illustrated. So plan, now we know that we're talking about a plan. Yes, like Yoda, that's true. That's a comment. So plan, I have. Schedule, do you have? But you know, sentence structure we'll get into later, like another class. But that's a good question. And yes, it is set up like that. So always think topic, comment. Because if you are using visual information to communicate with somebody and somebody started talking about grass or their experience running, you can't place them until you know where they are running. It's kind of like leaving out the noun. You know, when people, or just children especially, will relate a story, they will tell you something and they have not provided you with the subject. So first you're going to provide somebody with a visual subject and then talk about it so that you have some context to connect all the following information back to. I gather across the district, pretty much every classroom does a morning meeting, or there's need for both of those words. So both of those concepts. Morning, afternoon, and night, along with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have this horizon line. So your non-dominant hand arm is out in front of you across your chest or your neck. And then you have a, so anything below this is dark and anything above this is light. So morning would be in the beginning, and here's kind of your sun, your light. So morning just comes up a little bit above the horizon. Noon is straight up. Afternoon faces, you know, kind of the opposite of morning, and night ducks down underneath the horizon again. So morning, noon, afternoon, night. Palm up, palm facing, palm down, and palm invisible. You're following, you can think of following the track of the sun or the light of the day. Meeting is, again, your fingers become people and you come together like this. People come together, kind of like, So people are kind of walking around, interacting. So to have a morning meeting, you would have a morning meeting. And the way these people come together, you kind of brace your thumbs against each other and then have the meeting. So morning meeting. Someone's asking about circle time. Circle time would be a group for the younger children. We often refer to circle time. So usually what is used is, one could say a circle, but that denotes an object. So you wouldn't use that because remember, signs convey concepts. So what is the concept? What does a circle time look like? You would say class or group. G's that start together pointing out and go around in a circle. Yeah, group time. Or time for group. Another thing that, yes, a request for a little more slowly. Let's go back to group then, huh? So G, the letter G, tipped, put together. I know this is kind of an awkward view. Let me see if I can give you a different view. So you have your G's and you go, you're gonna start with your index finger knuckles together and travel around until your pinky knuckles are together. Group. since a lot of people use a circle time or a group time with the younger children and weather is a part of it, and it's not really connected to a lot else, I know you often have older children, but I thought I'd throw in the weather at this point. So the sign for weather is two W's, like this, on their side. Weather. So temperature is something that we talk about with weather. Here's hot. You take your hand, your dominant hand, make it into a claw, put it against your chin, hot. You breathe out, hot, hot. And the way you talk about it, the way you sign it, produce that sign, can also deliver the intensity. Hot, yeah, hot. Hot. You really exaggerate. Hot. Or it's just a little hot. Cold, it's kind of universal. Take two fists, cold, and bunch up. I'm cold. And in between, you have warm, which starts with your, I'll just do it first, then I'll explain. So warm, warm, warm. So you start with your fingers and your thumb together, again, like that squished O, and at your chin, and then it kind of spreads out and then moves away from your face. So warm, warm. Clouds. They are kind of puffy, amorphous things. So you put them up in the sky and you kind of multi-shapes across from left to right. Cloudy. Sun. Sun is a fun sign. So you have a circle for the sun, and you go up and around, and then it shines down on you. So the sun, sun. Rain comes down from the sky like streaks. Rain, rain. Snow also comes down from the sky, but it kind of flutters a little bit. So make your fingers wobble and then slowly bring them down. Wind blows all over the place. Whoosh, whoosh. Hands back and forth. The subjects that you study during school. Reading. You have a surface that you are paying attention to, and you have two eyes that look, and they go from top to bottom. Reading, reading, reading. Reading, reading, reading. So it's like your eyes going over the page. If you're just reading a sentence, they can read just from left to right. But mostly they're reading top to bottom. Reading. Writing, bet you can guess what that might look like. You have a paper and you're writing. You mimic your hold of the pen or pencil and you write. Math, you take an M on one hand and an M on the other hand and put them together, stripe against each other like this. Math. Question, could I recommend a textbook we could purchase that would be a good resource for all the signs? Yes, I have an excellent one, and I will include that in the next email that I send out to you. And I'll send you a picture of it so you can order it and know that you're ordering the right book. I know this is a lot of vocabulary today. I'm wondering that I'm going too fast or filling your heads too far, but we will move along and you have this to review. So we have reading, writing, 2 M's for math, science. Think of experiments with science. So make a fist with your thumbs up, like good job. Turn it upside down, and it's kind of like you're pouring things into something. Kind of experimenting. Computer time. There are lots of signs for computers, but the one I see the most around here is you have your flat non-dominant hand, and you have a C in your dominant hand, and you do this on the back of your palm. Some people do this, like a C up by your brain, but I see that more on the East Coast than I do out here. So I see this most of the time. PE, exercise, gym, is you kind of take your X fingers and you do this on your shoulders, kind of like jump rope motion, but exercise only with your fingers. Library is going to be the easiest one ever. It's an L in a circle. Library. Art. Have your hand, that is your surface, and use your I hand shape, pinky, and you go down your palm. This is a sign for draw and for art. I think this one's the best view, probably. Art. And you can kind of wiggle it if you want as it goes down. Music. Have your forearm out like you're holding a score, a musical score or page of music. And you have your palm and you follow a musical thing. There's also a question about some of our kids participating in Unified Special Olympics. And so there is a sign for Unified, and you take your 2 U's, you put your index fingers together, and you go around and put your pinkies together. Unified. I know that this is kind of a hard thing to see online. As I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that it's a little flat on video. But this will come up a lot. And there are a lot of initialized signs with this. So family, you take your 2 F's, put your circles together, and go around in a circle till you touch with your pinkies. Class, you take your C's, go around. So you're kind of making a group at the same time that you are initializing to signify what kind of a group that is. G is a group, class with the C, F with the family, and it happens to be the same shape as unified with your U's. So you could say, regarding PE, which is Unified Special Olympics, you could say Unified PE. Work, like work time. I think we've done this before. You take your two fists that are an S shape, and you take your non-dominant, and your dominant one goes like this. Work. Circling back to Special Olympics. Special Olympics is different than Unified PE. Special Olympics is just the, sorry, I have a bug flying around here. Is you have your index finger and your non-dominant. You take your dominant hand and you capture at the top of it, top of your finger, and you pull the whole thing up. This is the sign for special. Special. You're lifting one thing above all the other things. Special. And Olympics, you have, you know, the linking circles. So you would make a link between your hands and then just do them back and forth. So it'd be Special Olympics. And a question, would it be incorrect to fingerspell PE? PE, you can fingerspell anything you want. That's fine. So it's not incorrect. Most people sign it, but you could sign PE. It's short, that's fine. Okay, games. Games. So you take your fist with your thumbs up and you mash your back, your knuckles together, basically, this part of your hand together. So this is games. Challenge is very similar, so I'm going to show it to you so that you can see the difference between the two and know that you're saying the right thing. A challenge involves a movement, which is one of the parameters, remember? So there's hand shape and there's movement and location. These are things that help determine the accuracy of what you're saying. So challenge is the same hand shape, but it comes down and goes up into that position. So a challenge. And that's kind of like two heads coming together. Challenge. So a game could be really challenging. And you've just said two different things. Game, challenging. And the difference is the movement and your facial expression. And this would add emphasis. Wow, that was challenging. Will this work? Challenging. A game, just a game. Board game, sports game, just game. We've done afternoon, remember? It's your sun, your orientation, morning, noon, afternoon, evening. Lunch. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are a couple different ways to do this. Oh, afternoon, request for afternoon done again. So afternoon, afternoon, afternoon. Here's your sun, your horizon. Here's your sun. Afternoon. This is noon. This is afternoon. It's the future. And then night. So it's moving out in front of you. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are two main ways that this is done. And the reason I bring in the time thing is that breakfast is the meal that you eat in the morning. Morning eat is breakfast. Morning eat, that's breakfast. Noon eat is lunch. And guess what dinner is? Night eat. That being said, there is also a shortened version that is also used where those signs are initialized. So breakfast would be eat with a B, breakfast. And lunch is an L. And dinner is a D. That being said, I would really encourage you guys to teach if you're teaching this to kids or reinforcing that language to kids, I would use the formal name of morning eat, noon eat, and evening eat. A book is something you put your two palms together and you open it, because you're showing what a book does. And you can do it this way, or you can just open up the whole book. You don't have to do it, keep the spine together. You can just open up the book. Open up the book. Box, like a lunch box or a work box. There are lots of boxes and bins in classrooms where you put your work papers and whatever. So it's good just to know what box is. And a box takes your hands. So take your flat palms and tip it so it's the sides of a box and then the other sides of a box. So you're making the shape of a box in front of you. Box. Box. You can define what that box looks like, and you can separate, distinguish between boxes if you have multiple boxes. So you can have a box, or you can have a box, or you can have, a square, you can have a rectangle, you can have a big box, you can have a small box, depending on how you sign it. You can add a color to it, the red box versus the yellow box. Pencil, pen, and crayon. So a pencil, you have to have your paper to write on, right? So bring up your non-dominant hand again. And a pencil, this is the tip of your pencil is right here. And you touch it to your lips, and then you write. It's kind of like licking the top of a pencil. I don't know why anybody ever did that, but at any rate, so you just lick it and then you write. Pen is the same exact thing, except you don't lick it. Because who wants ink in their lips, right? So, but either way, you can use them interchangeably. It's not a big deal. Crayon is a different thing. Crayon is a color drawing implement, writing implement. So basically, pencil and pen, pencil, pen, and then color drawing implement. And before somebody asks about magic markers, you're just going to have to, you can spell out marker, or you can, the shape, you know, it's a long tubular thing, it's fatter. You know, you can make it a puff out your cheeks color, or just use context. Erase, just use your fist and erase it. There's a question about showing crayon again. Absolutely. So you have your paper. This is the sign for color. Color. And then your writing implement. Color. And as for pencil and pen, you can just use them interchangeably. I learned bulletin board and chalkboard. So was a B, hand shape of a B, B, B. But now we have whiteboards. So we do white board or white board, whiteboard, outlining it, whiteboard. Just tracing the perimeter of the board, whiteboard. Water, drinking a glass of water. You take a W and you put it against your chin. Water, water. Snack is a small meal. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can just make it a really light bounce. A lot of people do snack, and again, this is more of an East Coast sign. A lot of signs on the East Coast came out of how the word sounds. So snack is kind of like deaf people would think it was the same as snap. So you could snap, so they do a snap by their mouth. But to sign food, food, eat. But you might see that from some kids. Scissors, chop, 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 chop. Just your 2 fingers, like you would have to sign it if you thought you were going to illustrate it. Tape. Take your 2 fingers and your 2 fingers. You put one down. Your non-dominant is going to hold the space, and you're going to tape across that space. Kleenex is like this, just kind of going at your nose, kind of like when you're stealing somebody's nose. It's also the sign for cold. If you have a cold, But if you wanted to tell somebody to go get a Kleenex, you would say Kleenex and point for either go or point to where the box is. You could also ask them if they need a Kleenex by raising your eyebrows. Kleenex? If they need one, or if you need one, where is it? Chair. There are these things called noun-verb pairs in American Sign Language, and a noun-verb pair is that the sign is the same for a noun and a verb, and it has to do with how, well, I'll just show you. So a chair is a surface, small surface, so you get your two fingers, and then you have your legs, and you sit in it. But because it's a noun, you bounce it a little bit. This is a chair. The verb to sit includes the action of your legs going under the chair. So it can be a suggestion, sit down, or everybody sit down, pointing to different people. Or it can be a command, sit. So your face has to match what you're saying. But a chair is steady like this. Tape looks the same with the same fingers, but it moves differently. Again, back to movement making a difference. It's a parameter that makes a difference between what you're saying. A chair, table, so you have a large flat surface and you can put things on it. Then you come to the end of the day and school is finished. So you're going to go home. And home is where you eat and where you go to bed. So home. So flat O, eat and bed. Bed is actually this, but they're shortening to home. So you go home. A bus is signed a couple different ways. And one is the steering wheel, and the shape of the steering wheel, it kind of determines what vehicle it is. So a car, you're just right in front of you, right? There's your car. Truck, it's bigger. But a bus, the wheel is usually flattened. So it's usually like this. So there's a sign for bus. But you would probably further elucidate to make sure that what you're saying is clear. And there are these things called lexicalized signs. And a lexicalized sign, and you're probably guessing from lex is a word, so it's actually going to be, a lexicalized sign is actually finger spelling that is such a habitual way, a ritualistic way of doing it, that it has become a sign. So bus is B-U-S. Bus. So you would get on a bus and it just moves from the left to the right with each letter. So B-U-S. Bus. So it takes some practice. There are several of them and they're pretty fun, but you just have to practice getting used to that movement. So you can, question about pack up would be clean up, I have backpack, which is part of the vocabulary for Monday. So clean up, get your backpack, get ready. You're going to go home and you can go on the bus. Bus. That was a lot. So in the 10 minutes we have left, I will go all the way through the whole list again, and hopefully not too fast. This is a long list, and the one on Monday, the next class on Monday, is also a long list, but it's going to be okay. You have these videos to go back and practice with. You have other people you can practice with, and I'm going to get you a book that will have all of this as well. So, school. School. Learn. Off the page into your head. Learn. Teach. Out of your head into somebody else. Teach. Forget. Wipes it off your head. Remember brings it back. Ready? 2 R's, left to right. Plan. Plan. Schedule. Schedule. Morning. Noon. Afternoon. Night. Meeting. Weather. Temperature. Hot. Hot. Cold. Warm. Cloud. Big puffy things that roll across the sky. Sun. Sun. Rain. Snow. Wind. Reading. Writing. Math. 2 M's across each other. Science. Thumbs. Computer. PE. Unified Olympics. Or unified PE. Special. Bring your whole finger up. Special Olympics. art, art, music, work, games, lunch, like breakfast, and like dinner, morning eat, noon eat, evening eat. Book, box, pencil, pen, crayon, color with writing, erase, white board, water, water, snack, scissors, tape, Kleenex, chair, as opposed to sit, table, home, home, go, home, go to the bus, sign for water fountain. So water fountain has to do with, it's pretty iconic about how you approach a water fountain. You usually put your non-dominant hand on one side of it to stabilize yourself in relation so you don't bang your face on the little thing. So water fountain is glue. Glue is something that you pour, basically, right? So you're going to use the pouring hand shape, which is a Y, and it's going to glue and pour around. And it's very sticky. So you use your middle fingers and your thumb and your face. Sticky, sticky. Glue, sticky. And you would sign GLUE. Finger spell if you wanted to be really precise. The sign for remember takes from your thumb and puts it onto your thumb. So it's taking a thought and bringing it up into the front where you can really see it quite easily. And possession of have is you take your palms, your hands, and you bend them and you put them against your chest. Have. I have something. Have. And that's all. Nicely done. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye.